Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty fascinating, moving beyond AI image generation.
Yeah, into 3D models, generating actual three-dimensional objects.
Exactly. And, environments too. All from maybe just text or even an image prompt. It feels like the next level.
It really does. We've talked generative AI before, and this felt like the natural progression to explore, to really look at the power and the potential here.
Right. So for this deep dive, we've been going back through some of those earlier discussions. And it's interesting how the core ideas, the techniques are being adapted.
Like those diffusion models we discussed for images.
Yeah, those exact ones. But now they're working in 3D space. They're manipulating volumetric data, like 3D pixels.
Wow, Carol.
Or point clouds.
Sort of like digital sculpting, guided by the prompt.
Yeah.
And a lot of this relies on the AI learning from massive libraries of existing 3D models.
So it learns the shape of things, the rules of 3D.
Pretty much. How objects are constructed, what looks realistic. That's how it can generate such varied outputs.
Okay. So the idea here is to give listeners a handle on this tech, right? Without getting lost in the weeds, but understanding the implications.
Exactly. Where it's heading, how it could change things.
Let's start with, say, the gaming industry. That seems like an obvious place this could have a huge impact.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the sheer number of 3D assets in a big, modern game.
Characters, weapons, buildings, trees, everything.
Right. And traditionally, building all that takes a huge amount of time and money. Teams of artists.
So AI comes in and what? Helps speed that up.
Potentially, yeah. Imagine a smaller game studio. They want a diverse cast of characters, unique outfits, different features.
That would normally be a massive undertaking for them.
Exactly. But with generative AI, maybe they just type descriptions,
Yeah.
Hardened space marine, mystical forest elf.
And the AI could spit out options.
A whole range of them, yeah. It could really democratize that high-level visual quality, make it accessible beyond just the huge AAA studios.
And we're already seeing bits of this, aren't we? Like procedural content generation.
Using AI to help create vast landscapes, maybe even entire game worlds that would be, well, basically impossible to craft manually piece by piece.
It's not just the static stuff either, is it? I heard about AI helping with textures.
Textures, yes. Making surfaces look realistic.
Yeah.
And even some early work on animations. It just adds layers of realism.
Really changes the scale of what's possible in game design.
It absolutely could. And it's a similar story, really, in the film industry.
Right. Visual effects. Creating believable digital characters, complex environments.
Super time-consuming. Super expensive. AI offers a way to streamline that whole pipeline.
So picture this. Instead of a team working for months on, say, a fantasy city.
Maybe an AI could generate the basic structure, the buildings, even populate it with varied background characters in a much shorter time frame.
Potentially hours or days instead of months.
That's the promise. We're seeing some use for background elements, maybe less critical assets already.
But there are limits, obviously. We're not talking about AI generating the lead actor's performance just yet.
Oh, definitely not. Getting truly convincing, nuanced facial expressions, realistic human movement for a main character, that's still a major hurdle. The subtlety involved is immense.
Okay, that makes sense. Which brings us nicely to the challenges, the hurdles that still exist, because it's not perfect.
Far from it, yeah. Generating really high-quality, super detailed 3D models consistently is still, well, difficult.
What kind of details are we talking about?
Well, think about complex geometry, really intricate shapes, or those super fine details that sell realism.
Like you mentioned, the human face. Getting skin texture just right, the tiny nuances.
Exactly that. Capturing those subtleties is tough for current models.
And it's not just about how it looks, right? There's this issue of understanding.
Semantic understanding, yeah. You could ask for, say, a futuristic spaceship flying over a cyberpunk city.
Okay.
And you might get a ship and a city with neon lights.
Yeah.
But does it feel cyberpunk? Does it have that specific, gritty, dystopian, high-tech, low-life vibe?
So the AI might nail the objects but miss the artistic intent, the mood?
Sometimes, yes. It doesn't always grasp the deeper context or the specific aesthetic you're aiming for. Translating that creative vision into a prompt the AI truly gets is still tricky.
But people are working on this stuff.
Oh, constantly. It's
Yeah.
a huge area of research. Improving the detail, the fidelity, making the AI better understand materials, physics, making things look and feel right, and ironing out inconsistencies, too.
Okay. Let's shift gears a bit. The metaverse, that word pops up everywhere.
And it's another area where this 3D generation tech could be huge. These virtual worlds need an unbelievable amount of 3D content.
Right, to make them feel real, immersive, building that manually seems daunting.
Hugely daunting. AI could potentially accelerate that massively,
Hmm.
creating detailed, expansive virtual spaces much more efficiently.
Could you have worlds that are, like, generated on the fly?
That's the dream for some, yeah. Imagine a virtual environment where the terrain, buildings, plants, maybe even animals are generated dynamically.
And they could change based on what users do.
Potentially. That leads to a really deep level of immersion, a world that feels alive.
But that sounds incredibly computationally intensive.
Yes. That's a major limitation right now. Scalability. Generating and rendering all that complex 3D stuff in real time for lots of users simultaneously, that takes serious computing power. We're not quite there yet on a massive scale.
Makes sense. Okay, one more big area. You mentioned earlier democratization.
Yeah, this is a really important aspect, I think, traditional 3D modeling.
Hmm.
It takes years to get good.
And the software is complex, often expensive.
Exactly. There's a high barrier to entry. Generative AI tools could significantly lower that barrier.
How so?
Well, if someone can learn how to write effective prompts, interact with these newer interfaces, they don't necessarily need that deep, specialized modeling skill to start creating things.
So artists, designers, even just hobbyists.
Yeah, it could empower a lot more people to bring their 3D ideas to life, to create and share things much more easily than before.
That really opens things up.
It does. It changes who gets to be a creator in this space.
So wrapping this up then, this deep dive really shows generative AI isn't just about cool images anymore. It's fundamentally changing how 3D content gets made.
Definitely. The progress is rapid, and the impact we're seeing or likely to see across gaming, film, maybe the metaverse, it's pretty profound.
We've seen the potential, the current applications, but also, the real challenges that still need work.
And it feels like we're still very much at the beginning, just scratching the surface of what this technology might eventually do.
Yeah.
The pace is just incredible.
Absolutely. Which leaves me with a final thought for our listeners to chew on. As these tools for creating 3D worlds and objects become easier for everyone to use, how might that change how we all interact online, how we express ourselves creatively in these digital spaces in the future?
It's a fascinating question. Really makes you think.
Indeed. Thanks for exploring all this with us today.